right, we are live on a Monday night. This is our last session. Good evening, Richard.
Hi, can you believe it's been 17 weeks?
Actually 18 because we skipped Memorial Day. So
Oh.
we've been working so hard on Monday nights. It's been great. This book is amazing, and it's really lent itself to having these great conversations, casual but still informative and meaningful. Thank you for joining me for all of those also.
I only made a fool out of myself just a couple times.
And it's all recorded and broadcast.
That's right.
Amazing. So we're here on the last session for So You Want to Talk About Race. I'm Letty, obviously. This is Richard, and I used my platform with Epic Consulting to provide this space because it just seemed like we needed to keep having these conversations. I know you and I were having the conversations every day. I think we were always having them, but it was never so focused and never to the point where we really thought, we're having these conversations, what can we do about it, if anything, in our community, in our workspace. So the last chapter of this book by Ijeoma Oluo is Talking is Great, but what else can I do? And so we've been talking. We spent a little over an hour for the last 18 weeks because we still had conversations on Memorial Day, trying to get these messages across, pulling quotes, pulling personal experiences. All of our guests have been amazing. Everyone's had great insight, research, and anecdotes. So it's been a great experience. I want to get your feedback on that before we bring in our guests. The premise, this idea that talking is great, but what else can I do, I think stumps a lot of people sometimes because these spaces can be uncomfortable. The work can be uncomfortable. But I wanted to kind of pose to you that if you want to talk about race, there is plenty of opportunity to do that. And have you experienced that recently or before in whatever space you want to choose to talk about? Military work.
Yeah. Well, it's most recently. When I say recently, I'm talking about the past year. That conversation has definitely been there, and I'm trying to take advantage of every opportunity I can to be involved in those conversations. And so, which requires a little action, and I'm saying little with just that. I don't think that I am overwhelmed in my efforts. I think that I can improve. I think that what I like about the book is the simplicity of the action that she recommends. And so as I was sitting there going through it, I started jotting down the simple things we could do. And some of the things you and I have talked about, like, going to the public safety meeting with the local police department and just having conversations, asking them, what are they doing about training, and asking specific questions. And I think that those are little actions that don't require, tons of resources, but it does require that the discussions will start to happen. Or go into the local city council, both in Early Martin and Delano, and asking them questions directed, going to the school board meetings. And these are something I've never done. And so I've got to start doing these and asking the right questions. Because I think she doesn't say it this way in the book, but I think talk is cheap. And I think that following George Floyd's death, the amount of talk that happened was a lot there, especially from, I think, white people. I think that, the idea of wanting to say the right things and keep having those discussions and trying to pull people of color into the conversation so you feel better about yourself, I think is not the way to go. I think that it is a matter of stepping up to the plate and really going to the people of influence, whether city council, school boards, those kinds of things. I think those are great opportunities to get out there and let your voice be heard. So that's sort of where I'm at. I think the discussions go further, and I think the action needs to actually start. And so that's where my commitment is following the reading of this book.
Okay, I'm gonna, because this is what I do, I'm gonna push back a little bit on the idea that talk is cheap, because we have spent so much time having these conversations, and I know what the point you were trying to get across, but I just want to make sure that, especially in this space where we're providing this conversation because we want to get people to come talk, I don't want to leave that just hanging out there like that, because we can't figure out what the actions really are without talking to people. And so the problem is, where's the action, right? Where you're talking, you have all these great ideas, and we'll talk a little bit about what that means. The talk is cheap part is in some of the examples that we're going to go over, that she talks about situations that she's personally been in, and then recommendations for people who are on that other side of that, asking for the talk, but then not willing to do anything about it. But I wanted to say real quick before we bring in our guests, we do have a comment from Tommy about the fact that you have a tie on. You dressed up for the occasion. Hi, Tommy. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, Tommy.
A tie. You dressed up. It's like the ball at the end of the end of the performance. Anyway, okay, so and now we're going to bring on a couple of our guests who have joined us before. We had a great conversation with both of these guests. They came on when we were talking about the N-word. It was a great conversation. So let's get Dr. Tanya Dixon. Hello.
Hello. Hello, everyone.
Welcome back.
Yeah, good to be back.
And then London McBride. Welcome to you also. God, that conversation feels like it was such a long time ago. It was in the middle of April or at the end of April, and it's crazy amount of time has gone by. So thank you for coming back on to have this wrapping up conversation with us. And then I want to bring on a guest who hasn't been on and really wanted to join the conversation here at the end. So let's bring on Abel Guzman. I have you down as Dr. Guzman.
Thank you. I should have worn a tie, though. I should have worn a tie.
Where's your tie? Grab a tie real quick. London, put a tie on with your hoodie.
I don't know. Abel, where's your tie?
I'm always a step behind Rich. Always a step. So the next time I'll have a tie on.
Yeah.
You have the button up. I guess that's formal enough. So thank you for joining us, the three of you, for this conversation. Abel, you've had these conversations outside of our space, obviously, and then working in the same space that Richard does. So what we'll do is kind of get a consensus, maybe a good place to start where we can start jumping into some of the quotes I want to pull from the book. But this idea that talking is great, but what else can I do? You kind of heard us talk a little bit. I'm going to ask Dr. Dixon to maybe share first when you hear this sentence, what else can I do? Or if you're asked that, if you hear it on the news or in whatever space that you're in where people are having these conversations, what's your first impression of that? What else can I do?
My first impression has been I'm into action. So when I read tweets and Facebook posts is great. But my first thought is, what are you actually going to do? And then who is going to hold you accountable for your actions, for what you say you're going to do? Because we need change. And yes, we're having great conversations, but we have to, as they say, I think there's a proverb that says, once you pray, move your feet. So yeah, so that's where I am. And it's hard. I won't say it's hard. Well, yeah, it has been hard because there's been so many things I wanted to do to get involved. So what I decided to do was just start my little corner with one person at a time and be willing to have the conversation. So those are my thoughts.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
London?
No, I'm right there as well. I think, we can sit here and we can talk about it all day long, and especially in my profession in law enforcement, you can see what's going on, and you can have these conversations whether you are on the side of there needs to be change or not. Those that are for change, they can't be swayed by those that aren't for change, and they really need to step up and make this profession what it's what we say it's supposed to be and what it's supposed to represent. And I think a lot of times the fear of being kind of put on that island for being the one to step up and start to do things kind of hinders the progress, because then nothing gets done. And I think that's where that whole talk is cheap saying comes from. But for those that are willing to step out there and kind of put their necks on the line, I think that's where you'll really see an impact, and you'll see change, and you'll see the conversations with the community members, and law enforcement not talking but listening, to make those positive changes.
Yes. Yes, thank you. Because I know that even though we're going to agree, probably most of us, because we're in education or in psychology or therapy, law enforcement, all of these community service kinds of things, we're maybe coming from sort of a same place, but it's going to have to be from all different angles, right?
Absolutely.
So, Abel, I want you to also kind of give us your take on it, but share a little bit about what you do, since you haven't been on the broadcast, what you do, like what your position is in the community also.
Sure. Thank you. Really appreciate you all doing this. I think, as I'll talk about in a couple minutes here, this is important for a lot of us that are just jumping into this journey about talking, right? So as I was reading this book, I was checking a lot of boxes, and it wasn't until I finished that I realized, like, now I'm ready to move beyond talking. But anyway, my official day job is executive director of rural initiatives for Bakersfield College. So I oversee our satellite locations and programs. Also wear a few different hats within the college. One of them being being a co-chair for Equal Opportunity and Diversity Advisory Committee, which is a shared governance committee that does a lot of work around diversity, equity, and inclusion at the college.
Mm-hmm. In terms of like the community-based conversations or the push, we're all reading, we're all having these conversations. Abel, like you're mentioning, you feel like maybe you're ready now. Maybe you feel more empowered. Now that that's happening in all of our different places, especially over the last year, even though this has been going on for a very, very long time, is it becoming at this point easier to talk to then ask for action, or do you feel like it's still so slow moving that we're still at the just baby talking steps? Anyone can jump in.
I feel like it's slow moving. I've been trying to have conversations with a certain sector of people who work in mental health, and just the pushback is great. The pushback has been really challenging because there's a thought process that says, I really don't have time to hear about this because it's not affecting me. But I think if we're part of this human race, when one hurts, we all hurt. So if you're saying, well, it doesn't affect me, to me, that's telling me you're desensitized and you don't care about your brother or sister. And I think at some point we have to be our brother or sister's keeper. So it's been quite challenging. It has been, but I'm still going forward because that's what I'm supposed to do. If I can plant a seed, somebody else is going to water it, but I have to understand that some people just have their own stuff that they're dealing with. But if we can get back to that point of loving your neighbor as yourself concept, we would all be better off.
If I could jump in, I completely agree. And I think if we're going to combat systemic racism. It has to be a collective approach, and it has to happen now, right? And we're seeing that. But at the same time, I take a step back and think this is an individual process at the beginning. Like, you really have to dig deep. And for me, even though, I've been affected by, by racism in one way or another, or someone I love has been, it's not something that I've talked about, right? And like I mentioned, just in the past year. So this initial process of just it's about mindfulness, right? Like, going into these conversations, it's getting easier for me. But I will say, especially at the beginning, there was a certain level of anxiety, or just kind of, you're anxious coming into these conversations because, one, you feel like maybe you're not going to say the right thing, or you're not a quote unquote expert on this, right? And so it is difficult, but so it's an individual process. And because of that, we're all at different places. And so conversations I've been having with folks, just like Letty and Rich, you've been having with each other, like my wife and I have had these conversations, and now she's feeling more empowered to have that with other folks. And so it is a slow process at the individual level, but it's something that collectively we need to address now.
That's the planting seeds, right? That's like what Dr. Dixon was saying. It's like, you have the conversation with that person, and then that person feels empowered to go have the conversation with another person at work, in another home, with your own kids, like things like that. So I like that idea that it's sort of like little by little, like those little grains of sand keep moving forward. Richard, were you gonna say something?
Well, she does have a quote in the book, and I don't want to steal your thunder because I know you prepared some quotes, but do you mind if I read a quote?
What is it? I'll pull it up.
Okay. It's the one of act and talk.
Oh, the talk, but act.
It's my favorite quote from the book. She said, act and talk and learn and fuck up and learn some more and act and do better. And I thought, that's it. That's it in a nutshell. It's like, get out.
We do that with everything. We do that with everything, right? And we tell our kids to do that with sports and academics and all of this. And then for some reason, because this can be so uncomfortable and painful for people, we're just like going back into ourselves and hiding. It's like we all need therapy. We all need therapy.
Come see me.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Come see me.
We're gonna give out contact information, and then we'll have webinars and workshops in the fall. That's what's happening. That's why we're here today, to advertise that. Len, did you want to add anything before I move on to the next quote?
No, I was just going. What everybody's saying is so true. Having those uncomfortable conversations, and I think that's key. And to get people to understand that it's okay that, like, you've never been exposed to this, and now, but this is the reality, and for them to understand that this is truth that's being talked about, because I think that's what we're dealing with too, is just that the truth that a person that we're trying to influence already has solidified in their mind, that, no, this is my truth, this is what I believe, this is what I've been taught, and it's almost like you're trying to strip them of what they've been taught, the negative that they've been taught, the lies that they've been taught, and to start them off fresh. It's almost especially in a sense with law enforcement, but I think it's across the board. You're stripping them of who their identity is, and you're giving them the truth of what's to become. And I think sometimes people get so wrapped up in what they believe is truth, and it becomes their identity. And to see that that's stripped away from them because it was all a lie to begin with, they're not ready to handle that. But I think developing those relationships, continuing those relationships, and being able to talk to them, not beating them upside the head with your opinion and with your truth, but just being able to have those conversations will I think it'll spur them to even ask more questions when they know that you're not coming at them negatively. You're coming at them actually in love, because you're concerned, and you're truly concerned with the state of the human race and that we need to change it. So I think, you know, being able to present it like that is huge.
Yeah.
Yes, that's perfect. And it goes a little bit into actually what I was going to pull up next, because there's this idea, because when you started talking about, well, that's my truth, I think that some of these phrases have sort of been co-opted to be used as like a stubborn a stubborn part of an argument where you are so unwilling to listen because like you're saying, it's part of your identity, and you don't even realize how ingrained these things are that are hurting other people. So you're just saying it's part of your identity, and it's like, is it really though? Are you really that kind of person? But because it's like, this is how I was brought up, this is what I learned, religion, whatever it is, or even just like this, the wokeness of people, and this idea that I'm saying the right things though. I'm saying the right things, but their behavior doesn't change. So this, to me, this sentence is more about like social media, I think. This is the performative allyship. Does anybody want to kind of speak to this? Have any examples? I was going to pull up examples, and I thought, I don't want to keep bombarding everybody with these negative images, but if you're experiencing this, please.
So
what came to,
go ahead, Abel.
I was just going to mention briefly what came to mind as I was thinking about this is that, you know, the thoughts and prayers effect, right? Like when we think about like school shootings or mass shootings, and just sending thoughts and prayers, and nothing's changing, and things keep happening over and over again, and we see that across different issues, including racism, right? Like, especially like you said, in the social media world, it's easy to share a news story or meme that you feel is like, all right, I put in my grain of salt here, and just did my part by sharing this, without actually following up and doing more. And so it's just so common now in the social media world. And that's what came to mind, just that effect of thoughts and prayers.
That's a good example. Richard, oh, we lost you for a second.
I'm back. Sorry. My network just shut down, and then I was able to get it to come back up. But yeah, I did want to comment on this, because I understand the addicted in knowing that the satisfaction of saying the right thing, and so I'll try to say the right thing and see how that gets me. But no, it truly is, you know, getting a pat on the back for saying what's right, you know, makes you do feel good when you walk away like that, and unless you've got somebody that keeps knocking you off that horse to say, that's not why you're doing this. And, you know, I'm lucky to have people in my life that do that and say those kinds of things. But I realized we went to the Bakersfield Juneteenth celebration, and the college was there represented, and we did some things. You know, typical things, but when I showed up and then was being introduced to by a friend of mine that made a comment of, you know, that, you know, Rich is an ally and he does great things, and I just thought to myself, this comment was in there like I was so embarrassed, because, you know, the things that I'm starting to do are you know, it or what I should have been doing all along. And then to be congratulated for that makes it there's a person in my life that's reminded me that why you do things. And so it was embarrassing. I said thank you, and we, you know, tried to sort of minimize it, but I do get this addicted to the satisfaction, because I meet a lot of people who are good intentions, but they get to a place of, you know, aren't you going to slap me on the back anymore? Like what's going, and I'm just thinking, no, this shouldn't be a slap on the back kind of thing. This should be ingrained in our nature to be right by people. And So I'm just at the beginning of that. So I do understand that addicted nature of being a good, especially for white people, being a good white person that's doing the right thing, but getting congratulated for it really is addicting.
We all want to feel good when we're, especially when we feel like we're in a space where we might be looked upon in a negative way. And so then any little thing, the pat on the back is very powerful. It's very, very powerful because since we were children, we were taught to get that. We were taught to get that pat on the back, right? So it's like ingrained in us. Anyone else want to add to this addiction conversation?
I don't know. I was just thinking about an incident where someone was introducing themselves to me, and the first thing that came out their mouth was, "Well, I have friends from Africa." I was like,
God.
"They're in the headlights, right?" And I'm like, "Okay, but you don't know me. Do you know my name?"
Do you carry trophies in your purse to hand out? We need to start carrying trophies or cookies or gold stars or something.
I was shocked. Yeah. They were addicted to saying the right thing, but that was wrong because what that did, that pushed me back. It's like, oh, you just see me as that. I'm not. I have ancestors from there, yes, and I'm very proud, but really I was born and raised in Bakersfield. I have a name. So that's
and we can't be friends.
What'd you say?
And we can't be friends.
Yeah, let's set a boundary right here. Let's stop because it's not gonna work. Because that's part of coming out of what is what feels good to you to say, I actually want to engage you as a human being. I actually want to connect with you. I actually want to get to know you because I think you're pretty cool. But that messed it up. So let's go from that behavior to the human touch behavior.
Oh my goodness.
Are you all right?
I just can't. I just can't. She does make a comment in there. Wait, I think it was, or maybe I read it somewhere else actually, where there, when you're so shocked by what people are saying, or you're thrown off guard, even if you're a talker, even if you're outgoing and you're a people person, when stuff like that happens, like, what do you say? You can't even process it fast enough to be like, wait, unless you're going to be in that space for a long period of time. If it's in passing, those moments pass and you're like, wait, I needed to say this thing to this person because now they're walking around thinking it's okay to say that.
Right. Yeah, I think maybe that was in the microaggression section because that stood out to me. And an example that came to mind for me was I was wrapping up my dissertation and I was sending my drafts to this dissertation assistant that was reviewing it. And every time he replied, he would say, "Great job, amigo." And it just bugged me so much, right? Like I was like, did he just was it well intentioned? I can't tell, right? Because it's an email. But I'm like, I'm about to finish my doctorate here. And like that little microaggression, just little paper cuts every email, right? It was great job, amigo. It's like I never did address it, right? And like you said, it sticks with you and you're like, now I think maybe I should shoot him an email.
It's hard. It's really hard to speak up. London, I want you to I feel like this might be a space in your law enforcement, especially with training, that maybe this comes across a lot where people are trying to say the right things or they're patting themselves on the back a lot.
I think but with that, and I was like, when that came up, I was like, it's the folks in law enforcement that have basically they're addicted to what they're saying, even though it's a lie. And so since the masses are believing it at times, when they go against what you're saying, when you can talk about systemic racism and saying, hey, we need to stop it, or this is a problem, and they just regurgitate what everybody and their mama is saying that are opposed to it, they feel Like they get addicted to that too, because they have a crowd that's saying, good job, yeah, say that. And I look at that and they're saying it from a place of fear as well, because they don't want to be ostracized. They don't. And so even though something in them, and I think that's why, like, just how everything is so learned, it's such a learned behavior, because law enforcement teaches you to view people a certain way. And even if you come back with the truth, because you have laid that foundation of, this is how we're viewing people, this is my job, this is what I'm supposed to believe, I'm supposed to, be a cop 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I got to get the big truck with the wheels, and like, you name it. It's an identity that they fall for, and then they believe everything. So when you are the one standing up for truth and saying, this stuff has to change, you get the same group saying, no, this is right, you're wrong, and everybody's patting them on the back, so they feeling good about it, and so they continue it, and they never go and do any kind of research. They don't want to hear a thing that you're saying. And it's that reverse of what we're dealing with, speaking up for the truth, and our allies speak up for the truth. So
that's where, like you said, the talk can get cheap. And loses, like, in the public space. Go ahead, Abel.
I was going to mention, if we're talking about addiction, if we don't speak up, then we're enabling, right? We're enabling that addiction. The more we don't speak up, and it's time for an intervention, right? So I'm using some puns here, but it's true, right?
It's true.
No, it is, but that's part of the guilt, I think, that a lot of us carry when things like that happen, and then we're like, oh man, I was there. I should have said, like, it was my place to say, I'm supposed to be the interrupter. And then it's like, wait, but how, I'm the victim and the interrupter? What the hell?
Yeah.
No doubt. I mean,
that comes with all that.
And sometimes when we're the victim so long, our brain freezes, because there's a conditioning that goes on. And so sometimes when we want to respond, we go back into the default system. But I'm going to say, allow yourself to speak anyway. Even if you don't speak to the person, write it out, express it in art or something, so that your voice can be heard, because your voice matters.
Yeah.
Ooh. There's those little drops of wisdom that you're.
He's waking up.
No, that's it. That's good advice. And I know you're a therapist. Oh, we lost her. As a therapist, I don't know, she dropped off. Hopefully she'll be back. But I think that that's true with mental health, right? Is these recommendations that you just get this out. We're carrying all these things around, whether you're writing it or doing art or having conversations with people, whatever that outlet is, it needs to come out.
Absolutely.
Kind of feeds into this next one. This is more about exploiting those conversations. This idea here, because I've been asked this too, and this is why, because sometimes it can be so exhausting and painful, harmful to mental health. This, can you explain to me further personally? And then the assumption is that it's for free. So I don't want anybody to come at me, because I'm asking people to come into this space and share their personal experiences. I'm not asking anybody to do the work and then not paying them. So I hope no one feels that way. But it's this idea that when things like this happen, and whenever they happen, because they just keep freaking happening, that everybody's like rushing to fix something, bringing speakers in, let's do workshops. And then this idea that either they're going to have to come in for free or for very little pay, and how that translates to exploitation. Any personal experiences, or what are some thoughts about this particular, the way that we treat this? maybe at the college. I know Richard and Abel, you probably, I mean, I saw some of it.
Yeah, I mean, this work is taxing, right? Like it's taxing, like you said, on mental health and your physical health and relationships and like if you really dive into this, and I saw it personally, and just saw my colleagues go through it. If you commit yourself to this anti-racist work, it takes a toll on you, and it takes a toll on your family. And so I think people need to realize that. And that's why, finishing this book, I'm jumping into, not to make a plug here for another book, but it talks about the inner work of racial justice and the effect that that you as an individual, or the process you as an individual have to go through, because I mean, I've been, and Rich knows, we've been having these conversations, doing this work in our workplace for about a year now. And it feels like it's been 10 years, just the level of anxiety and stress and just the work that goes into this. And so I think it's important for society to realize that people of color, especially that do this work, carry a lot of that burden, and it's taxing on them, on us.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I think too that the passion in desiring change by people of color, especially Black people, and saying this world's got to change, that then to leverage that, knowing that, then to leverage it and say, oh yeah, so you want to come talk here at this conference and not even address compensation is just the. And I can't say that I'm. I think of Letty, your friend Reina, in the early times of her book, in trying to get her book out there and get her word out there. That we took advantage of that. Not you, me. That BC took advantage of that at the time, and would call her in to talk about her book for free. But her story was just incredible, and to be able, and I think back thinking, oh yes, she should have been compensated, and I'm not saying compensated a little bit. That was such a gift to our students, and so I think sometimes even though I'm not saying everybody gets paid, because people can do what they want for free, but I think when an organization has enough money to back up and pay, that they shouldn't be taken advantage of people's passion about the topic. So,
Or life experience.
life experiences, yeah.
I agree. I think that the organization should have an honorarium for the speaker, but I also think that the speaker needs to set an honorarium that speaks self-worth, that is valuable enough, to share. Yeah. So those are, yeah.
Yeah, for the example of my friend Dana, she's written several books now, and it was as recent as a couple of years ago when she was doing something, and it was actually here in Kern County. And the expectation was that because she was going into a rural area where the students had some of her personal experiences, that she shouldn't charge as much.
Yeah, that's exactly.
What the expectation was, because her story was so similar to the student's story that it was like, and they said that to her face, like, well, like these kids, they're like you and blah blah blah, and she's like, then pay me more. What's wrong with you? It was awful. It was awful. Especially if like the example from the book, if you know that the organization really does have enough money, and then the expectation is that you're just not, that you're free. I mean, like personally, your schedule is open, and then two, that there's no charge to hear you speak your truths. Yeah, this is it can be painful and turned around and used against you. And then in that same conversation that she had, is this idea about let's have a conversation one-on-one so I can understand where you're coming from, because the person that she had been talking to didn't agree with the use of the word exploiting, or that it was exploitative. So this idea, I think, we've kind of hit this over the head very very often over the last few months, this idea that people really do want to feel better, but they don't want to do better even when they know better.
Yeah.
I don't know if like we don't have any answers here, but we do have suggestions. Anybody want to jump on this? Like something that you've experienced probably recently, but maybe something that's happened over and over again, where the feelings are good, but there's no action. Again.
Or, you know, I think too, things that I've experienced and I've seen, you know, it's almost like, and I've had friends that at other agencies that experienced it too, putting us out there because we're the face of Black people in law enforcement,
Mm-hmm.
and that we can say the things to calm the storm, and once it's over, it's kind of like, all right, we good now? No, we're not good. Like, we still have a lot of work to do. And if it's all about you just putting a nice, you know, chocolate person up there to be the representative of your department, and you don't want any kind of actual action behind that, then we're not doing anything. We're just a detriment to our community. And so, you know, being used that way, it is frustrating because, you know, officers that are doing it, they're not, you know, with the exception of, you know, what their salary, they're not compensated to necessarily go certain places or to stand up to be the mouthpiece for the agency at that moment in time where, you know, we're trying to douse the flames. So I think that can be, I think the most frustrating part of it is that when you are out there and you're speaking from your heart, to go back to an organization that you know is not actively trying to change, you feel like a hypocrite. You feel defeated. You feel like extremely deflated at that moment because you feel like you've lied to a community that expects us to do better. And so, you know, that has to change, big time. That has to change.
Can you, London, talk a little bit about the community group? I don't know if that's still happening since COVID, but that your organization, that you're a part of.
Yeah. So after the murder of George Floyd, a defense attorney friend of mine that I worked cases with when I was in detectives, and retired and active law enforcement officers here, part of, you know, some part of the sheriff's department, some part of LAPD, Long Beach PD. We started a group called Police Against Racism. And we started it because we wanted to do better for the communities that we serve, and that meant, you know, addressing excessive force, racism within the organizations that happen to spill outside into the community. And we're talking about just from the hiring practices that a lot of these agencies are doing, and not promoting people of color. So we addressed that, and we started this organization to look into those things, from training to you name it, and even just to be a support group for those officers that were hesitant on pretty much, you know, blowing the whistle on these agencies that were doing some foul stuff. So we ended up starting this organization that has cops and community members, to start something, to become a true community, to walk in solidarity with one another. So it was something that we believed that we needed to do at that moment in time. And we've been doing a lot of things. And I think that, like, when you talked about this topic tonight, I think that's where we are as a group now. It's like, okay, we've had meetings and we've talked about it. Now what? And I think, you know, now we've started to attach ourselves to things that we know will make an impact within within law enforcement, but within the community as well. So we're involved in training. We're involved, like we have officers, retired officers that are actually doing research to see how many people of color agencies have had, since its inception, and to address that and to really go, whether it's to city council members or to the chiefs of police, to talk about these things. And so that's been, some of the things that we've been doing. We've been trying to get involved with community committees. Like I've jumped on 2 committees in my city, the Equity and Human Relations Committee and the Policing and Public Safety Committee. So we can hear what people need and be able to take that back to our respective agencies and say, hey, look, this is what people are saying. We're involved. We're doing stuff, and this is what's necessary. We actually have one of our members is actually he's in the process of running, possibly running for sheriff. So great dude. His name is Eric Strong. So he's so we have all these people that are actively trying to do something now, because we know that we've talked about it. Now, what are we going to do to save our community? Because that, when you really look at it, that's really what we want to do. This is our community that those that have done it right have promised to serve and to keep them from harm. And so the only way that we know how to do it is to get inside and start changing things. So yeah.
That's awesome. I wanted you to bring that out, because I think it kind of shows that there does have to be a lot of conversation ahead of time, right? To really even really start to gauge where everybody is and what the different voices are, and everyone has to listen first to see exactly where you get a good reading of the community. And then the idea that everyone has to do the step by step. Like, you guys are not, no one is jumping in, changing policy and expecting things, voters to vote a certain way, or mayors to make decisions about budgets or anything like that. It's like, okay, right now, what's the one thing that we're hearing that we can start making a difference, gain trust, and then step together forward, right? With the support. So if you've got all these law enforcement agencies coming together to try to do that in their communities, we can certainly do that. We can certainly do that in other community ways, churches, other service organizations where there's less of a conflict, maybe. Dr. Dixon, what do you think?
I think that what you're saying is accurate, that we be willing to step into the organizations and, like you said, find out what's going on first, because some of us have great passion, but sometimes our passion can do damage without getting knowledge first. I learned that. Yeah. Okay. So yes, but yeah, being willing to, now as we're talking, it's making me think about, opening my eyes even more to what's going on in my community, in my vicinity. And can I share a quick story?
Absolutely.
Okay. Just this weekend, I went to my high school reunion. I won't say how many years, but it's been a long time. And so one of the classmates reminded me how we shut down the KKK at our school. Our freshman year, they burned our lockers for 2 weeks. And so what I did was, with my little passion, I pioneered, and we established the first Black History program at the school. And administration was upset, but we changed the trajectory of the school. In the second year, we did the multicultural event, which annihilated all the racism and everything. So that taught me, as we're talking about this, that all of us have the ability to make a difference in our corners. All of us have a voice. All of us have been victimized somehow, but you become a victor and rise up and speak for others. We have the ability to be the voices for the voiceless. And so, yes, having these conversations are wonderful, because now we're we're creating our alliance, and all of us have different gifts that we can go in and make a difference. My gift is not like London's, my gift is not like Letty's, but I'm a part of this. So it's time, it's not by chance that we're meeting. I believe that we need to move forward and meet somewhere at a church, somebody's church or somebody's group. And I'm serious. There's that passion here.
Well, I was just going to say, I feel like I'm in church right now.
Well, it is, hey, this is what it's all about. This is what I do, but it's not about me. It's about making a difference. I think about our former leaders, Cesar Chavez, Dr. Martin Luther King. They didn't just talk about it, they were about it. Mm-hmm. They talked to the people, they heard from the people, but they also fasted. They also prayed. Some believe, some don't, but that's just what arena I'm coming from. So let's make a difference. Let's rise up. And that's all I have to say. I'll be going.
We'll have like a different setup where, it's actually, a situation where you can preach and we can sing and we can eat good food, always food.
Yeah. But that's what's burning. Yeah.
No, that's good.
Yes.
Well,
I don't want to follow up that amazing. I learned so much there, but I do want to just mention. I think we talk about addressing systemic racism, and so it's a system, and right now I think the system is trying to address it in a way that's just checking boxes. Right? There's so much money being pumped into trainings. Anti-racism trainings, the diversity, equity, inclusion trainings, and people are going into these and they're checking boxes and what happens afterwards. And I'm seeing it just across the country. There's millions of dollars going into this, and with the return on investment not being what we hope it is, right? And so I think what London explained is a perfect example of going beyond training and actually getting some action done.
Yes, absolutely. And then the list that she shares, that Oluo shares in the book, I think that a lot of these things, they sound like they're common sense things and we all talk about them, because she's like, vote, like, duh, everyone should be voting, like, get your voice out there. But for even those who cannot vote, there are plenty of people who support, right? They go out. They will stand in those lines, feeding people. They will knock on doors. They will do everything they can because they know that everyone in the community is going to either benefit or not from the people that come into power. So she talks about voting a lot. I think all of us are in and around education, London, even you, because you're at UCLA. But this idea about getting in schools, some of the work that I do with parents, I think kind of started in this idea that for me, when I see parents struggling, when I was teaching, I saw parents struggling, and it was like I could help as much as I could with like Spanish-speaking parents, for example. But then knowing and understanding and seeing that the system is not built to support parents. It's like you literally drop your kids off, we will take care of it, and then if there's a problem, we'll call you. It's like, again, why did we agree that was the system? Like, why do we keep saying that is the system? And then when parents get vocal, Abel, I'm sure you and your wife are going to be this way because I'm this way. I ask questions because I'm in education, and if I see something isn't happening, I want to go and find out, like, tell me why. Or if my kid is in trouble for some reason, what happened before this moment, right? Like, I want an explanation. Tell me what the classroom was like. What was the teacher doing? What were the other kids doing? I share the story of my son taking a knee during the flag salute. And it was like, what, you're gonna like pull him out of class? What the hell? So it's like getting, for me, parents in the community to say, the school is supposed to be there for us. Teachers, we respect them, we love them, we want them to get paid well, and we want them to have all the support that they need. But then let's also get out allow the community to come in and be that other half, that wherever there are gaps, because we expect so much from the schools, because the schools are saying, we got this. why? Like, it doesn't have to be like that, right? That idea that we can do this together. Any additional thoughts on the school, getting involved in schools? You're like, yeah, just do it.
Do it. What's Nike's
Well,
slogan? Let's do it.
That's why I think programs like the Parent Institute for Quality Education, right? Because it's great because they're training. I know I talked about trainings earlier, but they're equipping and empowering parents, often immigrant parents, with the tools and the questions that they can ask, right? Because a lot of times, especially first generation or immigrant parents will just kind of default to the school and say they're like you said, they're going to take care of my kids, right? And whatever they say is right. But programs like this are empowering parents to ask the right questions.
Okay, and they're not sponsoring us, so if they would like to sponsor us, hashtag PK. Anyone want to add to that? I know we keep hitting the same things. I'm going to move on to this one because we talked about this just a few minutes ago, about this idea that things happen to us or around us and we have a hard time. It's that idea that we all think that we know how we're going to react when something happens, right? And then we say, oh, I would never, or that's not what would happen if I was, or whatever. How hard this is to bear witness for all of us. But maybe, I know she's talking about maybe white people because of this chapter, but.
Well, as
Richard,
the certified, what was it we talked last time?
my resident white person. You're my resident white guy, tall white guy.
DEA certified. That's another story for another time. But I think you're right. We talk about this, and I don't mean to pick on the city of Delano, but it is the city that's the closest to where I am. And we can drive through town and see somebody get pulled over. And I promise you, in Delano, I don't know why this happens. One person gets pulled over for a speeding ticket, and if they're a person of color, there's going to be 3 cars packed up right behind them, and they show up. And I've been pulled over in Delano, and I don't remember having such a party with my speeding ticket. But I'm saying this for this bear witness part is because it's happened more than once where you're just driving by, they let the person go. But it is an event to get pulled over for a speeding ticket if you're a person of color in Delano, and the simple act of just pulling over with them and just saying, "Why are you pulling them over?" Just asking a simple question, and then say, "If you don't mind, I'm going to sit here and wait," and just that presence.
You could do that. You could do that probably.
Yeah. But meaning
none of us can do, none of us are going to do that. I hear what you're saying, because she does give the example. She gives the example of just be there, step into that space. I know I'm cutting you off, but I don't know if police activity is the best example, because I don't think the rest of us would have the same thought. I think because it's so, correct me if I'm wrong, everybody, but to me, when I read that and then I'm thinking about bearing witness, I mean, like, even a microaggression, like if Abel was said, like if he was told or called amigo in a space that I was in, and it was in person, and no one else is saying anything, I don't know if I would have the guts to say, where did that come from? Like, that's not cool. Why are you saying that? Like, I feel like I want to say that I would. Maybe I would now. But a year ago, 2 years ago, I don't think that I would. To me, that's what this means.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree with Letty on that. That's what I was thinking as well. To be able to stand up in those moments to say that, okay, foul, you know, call it like it is, you know, and I think like even, you know, and my profession, to be able to call that out as well is huge. I remember when everybody was still talking about Kaepernick and Nike and all that kind of stuff. And I happened to be in the car with somebody who was talking about, like, oh, I can't stand Kaepernick, can't stand Nike. And I was just like, okay, why? Tell me why. And they gave me the whack answer, because he doesn't like cops. No, he never said that. He doesn't like police brutality. And they kept going, well, whatever, I still don't like him. All right, whatever. But I think those moments right there, when you can guide somebody, or at least tap them and say, hey, nah, that's not cool. I think that's what, you know, we need, you know, especially when it comes from, you know, from our allies, our white allies, like go to your folks and say, stop doing dumb stuff. Like,
Right.
let's stop doing the dumb stuff.
Yes.
I think that's what people need. We don't need you to necessarily come, you know, take up arms with us. We need you to go to your neighborhood and say, stop killing folks. Stop doing this. Stop being turds to people of color. Just, you know, I think that's really what it comes down to. And when you see something, say something about it.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the hard part. But that's what is appreciated the most. And then understanding, reading the room, right? Because if I, like, Abel, I'm just going to use it as an example because you said what you said. If we're in that space and then someone says something and I speak up and then it escalates, I have to be able to read that room. Or if a white person, maybe, I hate saying these things, but it may be harder for them to realize what is happening, or to what extent it's happening. And if I'm not speaking up and saying anything, it can be hard to shut it off. If you like suddenly feel impassioned to support someone, it's like, read the room, read the space. Especially if there's someone around who's armed, maybe.
Yeah, I will say, I mean, as far as reading the room, the example I gave, if it was in person, as you're saying, in any other situation moving forward, I think I'm comfortable enough to bring it up and say, hey, you know what, I appreciate it if you wouldn't call me amigo, right? But if I didn't, and someone noticed, like, man, that he seemed uncomfortable, or like he seems down now, like, not necessarily speaking up for them, but speaking to them, you know, pulling them off to the side and just checking on them, right? Check on them, like, hey, like, how's it going? And that one example I can give briefly here is last summer. It was around this time. I was outside a very diverse community. We have large Indian community here. A couple of white families, and then right across the street from me is a black family, and they have two young girls, or a kindergarten and like a second grader. They're out there riding their bikes, and I was out with my son in the front yard, and his car just kind of peels out, and drives by, peels out, and just says the N-word straight out of the car, right? And you have two little girls, and the mom's just standing there, and it I was like, caught us all off guard, and he just drove off. And I walked inside. I was already on my way in, but I walked inside, and I stood there, and I was like, I can't just let that happen, right? So I walked back outside and just said, hey, you know, sorry that happened. How you doing? Like, and she's like, you know, just kind of said, thanks for checking. You know, it's kind of crazy that they did that, but that's all it takes, right? Just checking in on someone after they experience an act like that.
That's a good point. The checking in also.
Yeah, you know, Letty, I appreciate your vulnerability when you say, you know, if someone, you don't know how to handle that situation, there's a fear there. And so we use the word confrontation. Let's try this, carefrontation. Because there's wisdom. We have to use our words with wisdom. Wisdom can start wars, but wise words can start wars. No, words can start wars. Get my words right. And then soft words can heal. So let's think of, I'm just going to put it out there, just a wisdom nugget. Let's think of the fact of carefrontation, because you don't know who's carrying. You don't know where the person is, because all of us are fragile at some point. Okay.
Yes, that's a good point. I think in terms of what we were, when we talk about why people lash out, the education that they've had, the upbringing that they've had, and how scared they can be, or how fearful they can be of either losing something or coming off a certain way. If they are trying, they're still afraid to come off a certain way. So that it's a good point. It's that, you don't know what's in people's hearts. That's just the truth. Okay, the other recommendation, and this I think is just about speaking up, is speaking up in your unions. Again, if you are in a position to make policies to affect change in your organizations, speak up as much as possible when it's actually going to affect people's lives, right, and improve their lives. And then supporting POC-owned businesses. This is huge. I feel like this can also be a way that we default, is to just go to big box stores or corporate. We go where we recognize, but those economic studies about where the dollar goes and how long it lasts in communities. I mean, that's a real thing, and we're not paying attention to that enough. We're in rural communities out here. I know you're in Bakersfield, Dr. Dixon, and you're in the LA area, London, but community-wise, this is still true. And is there, I want to give you the opportunity, if you have a favorite, to maybe put it out there right now, put out a favorite POC-owned business that you want to support out into the ether.
Let's see. There is one. I can't.
I am, while you guys are thinking, I'm a huge fan, London, you're going to love this. I'm a huge fan of raspados, okay? And if you know what they are, great. That means you have a lovely life because you know what raspados are. It's, snow cones and always fresh fruit and some chili powder, and it's sugar and it's salt, and it's cool and refreshing and it's delicious. And so you're not going to get that at Walmart or going to a fast food place. You're going to get it at a local place. We've got a couple near us where we can do that, or other places that have an ice cream kind of thing. So there's La Michoacana in Delano, and then there's this used to be Grace Chili Dog, but it's no fun now, that I love to go to because it's my favorite. I would eat them every day if I could get away with it, but I think my blood pressure would go through the roof.
Well, I'm glad you made that plug, so it wasn't me, considering there's that family connection with Snow Fun. But yes, please go to Snow Fun.
Oh, okay. Hook us up, man. What the?
I know. I get to try all the new flavors before they come out. No, it's a great place. I think, and another personal connection, and this is more general, not one specifically, but barbershops and hair salons. My dad and my uncle, who are immigrants to this country and worked in the fields for so long, opened up their own barbershop in 2004. And I think that's the American dream, and there's so many out there. So
that's a good one. Good.
I have not been shopping much. I'm sorry. I have not been shopping much in the pandemic except through Amazon, but there's a makeup line that I love, ladies. It's for Pat. It's called, her name is Pat McGrath. She's a famous makeup artist overseas. She has the best lipsticks. That's who I support.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Hilltop Coffee Shop in Inglewood, off La Brea and what is it, Regent? Yeah.
Okay, I'm writing these down.
I am too.
Yeah. and Treat Day truck is it's a food truck.
Okay. You said the
Food
Hilltop
trucks
Coffee
are
Shop.
Yeah, Hilltop. It's a
Mm-hmm.
coffee shop in Inglewood. Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Richard, you got one?
Oh yeah, Epic Consulting. No, I'm
OMG.
Yeah.
Brownie points.
I'll take it.
yeah, had to say that one. I think I don't know if this qualifies. Yeah, it does qualify. Oishi sushi in Delano.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Great. So the best sushi that I've had on the planet, and it's in Delano of all places. And it's little. It's about the size of my computer. But the people that work there are absolutely wonderful and
The owners are great.
are fantastic.
That is great food. I love how ours are like food related.
I got one.
London.
Our People's Barbershop in Carson. That's where I used to get my hair cut. All the homies work there, so that was the spot. So it's on Dominguez Street in Carson.
Awesome.
What?
Yes, please share.
There's a natural hair salon for braids, all type of braids that I go get my hair done. The owner is Capricia Daniels, and the shop's name is Loving Yourself Naturally.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
Okay. I feel like I saw something recently on some creator thing that I was looking at on probably Instagram, because I'm always on Instagram, where the conversation was about how much small business owners, creators have to charge for their products, and it's like, are we really trying to kill the American dream in terms of small businesses by saying that you'd rather go to Walmart to get that lipstick where you could get it, from someone that has their own business, or go get your haircut somewhere where you don't go to Supercuts, right? Go to the neighborhood barbershop, or support these businesses and allow them to charge what they need to charge to stay afloat, because then you're going to be complaining that all the storefronts are closed. So that the support of the community, knowing what is needed, and then supporting it when it gets there, is so important. We've got some comments. Tommy London he's saying talk about the black barbershops, but I guess you brought up your neighborhood one, so that's good. Let's see. Okay, so I feel like this kind of goes along with and I know we're past the hour, but I wanted to bring up the banking system, and banks, that big banks, smaller banks that prey on people of color, or they come into communities and they're not, other places too, like check cashing places, any sort of organization that's preying on the community. And then I wanted to bring up Greenwood Banking. I don't know if I don't know if you've heard of it or not, but I wanted to go ahead and share it because it was new to me, but it was something that Killer Mike is invested in. Let me share it real quick so we have a little visual. Sorry about that, people. Tab. Okay, so this is Greenwood Banking, and there's no brick and mortar. It's all online, app-based, and it's Black and Brown owned, and they do this. I thought this was really cool, and I want to switch my business account over to Greenwood because they do a lot of help in their communities. So they're like feeding families, they're donating to nonprofits, they're doing small business grants. Every month they're giving away money. So I wanted to put that out there because this idea that, just like with utilities, maybe this idea that we don't have options when it comes to things like this is just not true. And so we need to look for them. We need to look for the opportunities to support these kinds of businesses whenever possible, wherever we can. Again, it's baby steps. Like if I can pull one account over to there, I will. We need to start thinking that way. Also giving money to organizations that you know are fighting oppression, that you know are supporting communities of color, and this can be local. You know, if you know that it's happening at a certain organization, then give the money there. If you are willing to do like the $10, you know, quick app to GoFundMe for some other stranger, you can also do it for your community. So definitely do that. Sorry, I'm running through these real quick. If anyone wants to say anything, please jump in. Support things like the minimum wage. This should not be political. This should not be a political thing. It should be an economic thing. We should all be considering it and looking at it. We drove by the McDonald's the other day. My son, who's 16, said, they're paying $15 an hour at McDonald's. I said, yes. Do you want an application? Because you need a job. But yeah, McDonald's, $15 an hour. If you are so inclined to push your mayor and city council for police reform, whatever that's going to mean in the space that you're in, this is not defund the police. This is just really look at what's happening. Can you do community meetings like London's example? Can you partner with other local agencies? Do it. It does take time and it's hard work and it's exhausting, but I mean, we're talking about the future here, right? For our higher ed people, demand college diversity. Obviously, this is in hiring, it's in enrollments. You know, I would say, give us some examples of what you're doing, but I don't want to put you on the spot. I know you guys have been working hard.
I will add just real quick on this one. This one was huge to me, which is my research is focused on this and the sense of belonging and self-efficacy of students of color and the impact that representation among faculty and staff have on that sense of belonging and self-efficacy. So students or there was a consensus when they had a white professor, they had great things to say. They would say, you know, they were accepting of us. That's what they said for the white professors. They were respectful and they accepted us. When it was their professors of color, they said we felt comfortable. So that was the difference between the different. It was all good, but the feeling was different.
Ooh, those words, man, those words matter. The difference between feeling like you've been tolerated versus being accepted and belonging. That's amazing. I want to read your dissertation. I will read it too if you give it to me. When you vote for diverse candidates that you know are, you know, really think about what they're doing. Please don't just be blinded. I don't care who you vote for. Just make sure that it's legit what you want for your community. And if you're not looking at diverse candidates, then I don't know. Maybe I do care. We will have a problem. We will have a problem. Okay, any additional thoughts here before? Oh, I have a comment. Let's see. This is a shameless plug. I'm gonna go ahead and put it up here from Tommy.
Oh,
buy
there
his
you
book.
Woo!
Color of Power. And this
Copies, Tommy.
we're going to be talking hopefully in the fall on transformational policing. I'm going to have some conversations with Tommy, maybe put some things together that we can do webinars and workshops, do this kind of online format, and you know, figure out how to get paid to do some of this stuff. Any last thoughts? I wanted to throw that Tommy thing in there, but does anyone want to share any last minute about action before we close out?
I do.
Oh.
I just want to thank you, Letty, for putting this together. I can't wait to see what book you pick next. I am telling you, it's making a difference. It's small scale, large scale. I don't think it matters. What you've put together will sort of ripple out and change the community. And I applaud you for it. And I thank you for allowing me to be a part of it.
Oh, Thank you.
Mhm.
It's been an honor. I was scared. I'm going to say scared shitless. I hate speaking in front of people. This was like a nightmare scenario for me, but I was like, if I don't just do this, I just couldn't live with myself. So, I mean, sometimes this stuff was stupid and sometimes it made sense, but I appreciate everybody that came on to have these conversations because they're not easy and no one's really an expert and we're all just trying to do our best. But thank you for that because I really enjoyed it. Any other last? We're gonna go ahead.
Letty, thank you as well for this opportunity to share. And I just want to share with all of us, with Dr. Maya Angelou, what she said. She said, when you know better, do better.
Yes.
You know better. All of you
Mhm.
matter. So glad that you're in the spaces that you are. Walk in peace and go with grace.
Love it. Thank you.
Mm.
I'm glad you brought that up because I wanted to kind of like toot my own horn a little bit because I started a nonprofit and it's called Feisty Fellowships. There's no website or anything yet. We got our status, so I'm just like happy and so thrilled to like be able to like start going after funding and partner with people because the whole premise is to provide educational spaces to have these kinds of conversations, but also like arts and parenting and like whatever comes up. I try to make it as open as possible because there's so many different things that I'm interested in and passionate about, and my board is amazing. And so we're going to be doing some small things, but I'm going to be, reaching out to everyone that was involved in this project because I think that everyone sort of came together with some fabulous ideas when we kind of did like our feedback or whatever. So I'm looking forward to that, and I can't wait to talk to all of you guys about it. So that's a new thing. And then just a reminder, June is Pride Month, and I say this after every session. This idea, if you're confused, if you have no idea what's going on, know that someone in your life is experiencing these things, that there are LGBTQ people all over in your work, at your school, and they need support. And if you want to learn more, you should read, watch movies, look for TV shows, listen to podcasts, and talk to people. We can only do so much of the work for you. These things are being provided. So many streaming services curate this stuff. The way they did for like Black History Month, they're doing every month, they're doing something similar. So you can find the information and then be supportive in your community. This is one of those things you should donate when you have the opportunity to do that. Okay, so that's it. That's the last session for this book. I'm so excited that we made it through. There were several times when I was like, oh, I'm so tired. I'm so tired, but the conversations are always amazing and fruitful, and so many notes, and I appreciate all of you for participating. I guess that's it. We are, I am planning on coming back in the fall with something new and exciting, a new book club, other kinds of webinars and workshops. These things are important, and if not us, then who, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much. Good night, everybody.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.